So, welcome once again to the Anything Else
podcast.
Welcome, my friends, once again to the Anything Else from Somewhere Else podcast. This is the second we're recording today, so we've had a few to drink already, so this should be nice and relaxed and a little sloppy. With me in the co-host chair, I have the wonderful friend of mine, Mr. Alex Lints.
I like rye whiskey.
On the mixing desk, we have our wonderful producer, Mr. Dallas Outsider.
Hello, I'm Dallas Outsider.
And I am your lovely interviewer all the way from England, Mr. Olli Eldrick. And sitting across from me, looking smashing in a wonderful, I'd call it salmon pink. And I get a lot of people saying that I'm wrong when I call that salmon pink.
I call it salmon too,
It's
though.
a pinstripe salmon pink shirt, worn very leisurely. We have Mr. William Wallace. Great name, first of all. Thank you so much for doing this. Now, Will, we briefed you on how this podcast works.
Yes.
But first of all, when we get started, I just want to know a little bit about you. Just tell me about your music.
Excellent. Yeah. So, hi, I am Will Wallace. I usually go by Will. You might know me from the band Landfall. I'm the front man. We just put out an EP this past month. It's been pretty good. It's called A Short Hike to the Badlands. You can find it wherever you find your music. Yeah, I want to keep the plug section short because I'm way more interested in what's coming after this.
Well, we love you, but we would just really like you. Could you talk about anything else, man?
Now we've taken some gambles. I'm thinking that Will's special interest today, his passion project, I think Mario Kart. I'm going to stick to Mario Kart.
You're going with Mario Kart?
Just the Toad impression
like
we
he
did
just
while we
likes
rehearsed
playing it, or he's like a professional Mario
No, like he
Kart
knows
player?
the lore behind Mario
The
Kart.
lore, yeah.
The history of the game.
So you think he's here to talk about Mario Kart?
Yeah.
I'm gonna, I take Will for like a guy who's into like, he's a bit of a nerd, not a dork, but a nerd. I'm gonna say that Will is like really into like RPGs and the like.
Like JRPGs, CRPGs, like tabletop. What do we think?
I'm gonna say tabletop. I think Will's here to talk about like D&D.
Okay, and
Dallas, what do you think he's here to talk about?
I think he's on the JRPG side. Yeah.
you think
JRPG,
you're really hoping
okay.
for someone to talk about Kingdom Hearts? aren't you?
You're just waiting
Well-
and lying in wait
well,
for the Kingdom Hearts episode.
We are waiting with bated breath. Will, what are we talking about today?
Alex has hit the nail on the head.
God damn it!
I am a big fan of the TTRPG, or the tabletop role-playing game.
Okay, let's get into
Excellent.
this.
Yeah, so I mean, usually my role at the table is either DM or GM, and those are loaded terms, but it's essentially...
I'm with you there.
Yeah, either dungeon master or game master.
Which do you prefer?
Honestly, it really depends on the setting. Like, DM is so heavily associated with just Dungeons and Dragons. So, like, if I'm playing a different game, usually GM I prefer just because it's, like, a little bit more broad. Like, it's not as specific.
Because even if you look at, I don't even think Dungeon Master is a copywritten term. It might be, but I think even Pathfinder, which spun off from D&D, uses GM rather than DM.
I would say it's appropriate in Pathfinder, too. Pathfinder's interesting because it was, like, essentially made by people who looked at D&D and were like, that's cool, but let's make it so much easier, so much more coherent. Which, it's funny to me that D&D is like the culturally lingering thing in that regard, just because there's so much other stuff that's spun off from it that I think is cooler. That said, of course, I am here to talk about specifically D&D, so like, I'm not... I'm part of the problem.
So
Well, you're in luck, though, because our co-host here, Mr. Olli Eldrick, is very much into D&D.
I mean, we are going to go and play D&D later, so like,
Yeah, okay.
I'm hyped for this. I'm stoked for this. So yeah. So how long have you been playing?
Oh boy. So my introduction to tabletop role-playing games was not actually through D&D. It was through the tabletop game channel on YouTube, which is part of Geek and Sundry, which also
I know the
produces
one you mean. Yeah, it's
Critical Role.
it was an amazing
Yeah.
one back in the day.
Hosted by Will Wheaton. I'm
Great.
so sad the series ended, but there was an episode of the show on the Fate Core rulebook, which is essentially this like really narrative-driven tabletop RPG setting. And their version of it was they had this like sort of pop fantasy, but like urban fantasy setting. You might have seen
Okay,
this
so-
episode.
It's not the one I'm thinking. I thought you were going to say the. Sorry, this is going to sound really, really one-on-one for a second, really intimate. But I thought you were going to say the Dragon Age episode.
Oh, that one's also really good.
You're not talking about the special one they did with like Laura Bailey, Howie Urenthal.
No.
No, you're
No, I'm talking about the one, I can't remember what his name is, but he was a writer for The Magicians for the longest time. Or maybe Librarians. I get those two shows mixed up, and they are not the same.
Similar names at the very
yeah.
least. It's the something.
But it was essentially this setting where it was like there was this event where a bunch of magical eldritch beings started pouring into like Portland, Oregon, and these players were part of this task force that was supposed to like go and quell the threat. And like I had been used to, part of the reason I like wasn't as interested in the idea of tabletop games is because like fantasy's been done. And of course I sit here across from you now currently running a fantasy game. Like tomorrow night I'm going to be running a fantasy game in D&D. So like
We all know fantasy's passe, but I desperately want
Yeah.
to do it so much.
who doesn't want to like be a wizard and throw the magic missile? Like those are it's good
I mean,
time.
I will say Dallas, when I told him, hey, I'm going to be starting D&D, do you want to play? He was like, can I be a cat? So Dallas is playing a
It's a
druid.
Baxi.
No, he's playing a druid.
A
He
druid?
doesn't want
Oh,
to be
okay.
a cat person. He wants to be a cat.
Full cat. Okay.
Yeah.
That's respectable.
Yeah.
So yeah, Fate was my introduction. I got the book. I think I pirated the PDF at first because like who doesn't?
Yeah.
But I got the dice. That one's really weird because it uses what's called fudge dice. Are you familiar with the term?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to explain it for those at home?
Yes.
You explain it for Dallas.
Yes. So fudge dice are D6, so like 6-sided dice. And instead of numbers, they have 2 minus symbols, 2 blank faces, and 2 plus symbols. So the way Fate is played is at any given moment, you roll 4DF, which DF just stands for Fate dice or fudge dice. And a plus symbol is worth +1, a minus symbol is worth -1, and a blank face is worth 0. What's really cool about this arrangement, and part of the other reason why like I still run the system today, even outside of D&D, like I'll go back and forth between the two,
Right.
is because rolling 4 fate dice, statistically speaking, is a lot more weighted towards like a neutral position than D&D. So just talking statistics for a minute, you are equally likely to roll every outcome on a d20.
Yes.
So like you have a 5% chance to roll a nat 1, which is a critical failure, and a 5% chance to roll a natural 20, which is like
An
the
automatic
thing. Yeah,
success.
it's the thing where everyone jumps up at the table and hoots and hollers.
Alex has never rolled one of those, by the way.
Uh-huh.
Hey man, one of my favorite things to do as a DM, and this is a brief aside, I'll get back to my earlier point. When I'm building encounters for D&D, I will deliberately go out of my way to make them harder than normal. Because my dice luck is shit. So like if I throw something just a little bit outside of what the party's expected range
We
would
will
be.
go back to the original point, but I've got
Yeah.
an aside to the aside. In front or behind the screen?
Really depends. I like to make it like a dramatic thing. So if I'm just rolling like damage for a series of attacks from like a mob of goblins, sure. But I like telling my players what the outcome of this is going to be, or like alluding to it. So if it's like we're at the very end of a battle and like someone's making off with the MacGuffin, I'll be like, okay, so on these rolls based off these stats, basically you need like a 17 or higher, and this guy gets away scot-free. And then I will roll it in front of the board for everyone to see in what I call the Hex of Doom. Which
Below
is
the Box of Doom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fully a bastardization of Dimension 20's Box of Doom. But it's just this cool little demonic, like, hex-looking thing, and it's got weight to it. So I like infusing my roles with some drama.
Yeah, absolutely.
But most of the time behind the screen, just because like I have the screen up anyways, and it's
But let's stop talking about
Yes.
attention and dramatic stuff. Let's get back to what really matters. The
Math.
maths.
Distribution, baby. So what's cool about rolling 4DF, 4 fate dice, is that the distribution is normalized. So there is let's just talk statistics really quickly, very brief statistics talk. There are 3 possible outcomes on every fate die. 3 to the power of 4 is 81. So that's the total number of possible outcomes, like permutations for the fate dice that they can be in. There is only one possible permutation of 81. So there's a 1 in 81 chance of rolling a nat -4. So having all your dice come up as minus.
Yeah.
Or having all your dice come up as positive. Now, there are many more permutations in the middle because if you roll a minus and a positive at the same time, they cancel out. So it trends towards 0, and I really like that aspect of the game because it kind of emboldens your players to sort of spec into really specific things. And there's this mechanic where you can spend points to give yourself like a +2 to a roll, which is better than average. So like if you were to roll twice, a +2 would be a better bonus than like a reroll. I'll spare you the further maths. There's like a deep rabbit hole you can go into.
You're
with how you
sparing
can
Dallas
start
and I the
game.
maths. Ollie is very interested in this.
I am, but I'm also sparing myself because I know that this is all I'll think about for a while.
Yeah, we can after the pod wraps, we can talk more about
On the Patreon.
distributions. Yeah, I really like Fate. I will say one of the downsides to Fate is that there aren't that many like broad modules for it. There's really hyper specific stuff out there, so you kind of have to make your own homebrew to do the universe that you want to do.
See, my introduction to TTRPG was actually going into the nittiest and grittiest, and that was starting with GURPS.
Oh,
For those who at home who don't know, GURPS is the generic universal role-playing system, and it's designed that no matter what game you want to run, it could be anything from high political court intrigue down to you want to run a pirate ship and you need to know like the economy of the seas. There is a module that exists to slap onto your game
Also-
and make it work all together.
Also, fun fact, just while we're talking about GURPS, GURPS is also what inspired initially Fallout to be created.
Yes, it was meant to be a GURPS game. And
Yeah, and then they couldn't get the licensing.
Yeah.
Oh, get out of my head.
I love you, man. I love you so much.
Dude, this is great.
Should we do a side project that's just this? It's just this back
we
and
could
forth.
yeah.
We're just gonna have to get like a Landfall / November Down D&D sesh going.
Oh, yeah. I'd be down.
That's for the Patreon. That's the real thing. We've done the Halloween challenge. The next one is just you come. We will play a half-hour set at the beginning, a half-hour set at the end, and then it's going to be 4 hours
Of D&D.
in the middle, and we're going to throw you deep into some lore stuff. When you play, do you homebrew settings or are you an adventure setter?
So it really depends. My parents, I love them to death, but they frequently do not know what to get me for a present just because I'm the kind of person that like if I want something I will save for it and then go buy it myself. Like I don't tend to buy just like small things on a whim. Like I'm not very impulsive in that regard. But one thing they've found that's like consistently a good idea for things to get me just because I will never buy them for myself are D&D books. Just because there's so many.
I forgot how many there were. I got into 5th edition like a few years after it started when there was basically just the 3 cores and a couple of adventure modules. And I went into support your local friendly local gaming store.
Yeah.
I was in Amazing Stories
Fantastic story.
recently with Lacey, with your fiance, and they had a full like 3 shelves just of modules and adventures. There's so many now. There's so many.
So currently what I'm running is I'm also like I have so many pet projects. That was part of the problem with like picking one of them. I kind of settled on D&D just because it's the thing that's occupying the most of my brain right now. But currently, the module I'm running is actually set in a universe from a completely different game, also owned by the same people who own D&D, Wizards of the Coast.
Are you doing Magic the Gathering?
It is a Magic the Gathering
Oh my
setting.
God.
See, I never got into Magic. I was a Yu-Gi-Oh guy.
It's hard, and frankly, Yu-Gi-Oh is a lot easier to pick up. Like, I understand why culturally it lives in the memory more.
Also, Magic is getting to the point that what is the Magic setting doesn't really exist anymore. There are real world people in it. They also have like the Arabian Nights and stuff. There's so many additional
There's
things.
Doctor Who now.
Oh God.
Yeah. So I've kind of fallen out of love with Magic the game, but I am still a very big fan of like the old Magic settings. Like some of those universes are so rich. So what I'm currently running right now with some supplemental light homebrew, just because there's stuff I wanted to run from the block that doesn't exist in the book, is the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica.
I mean, it's designed for that sort of thing.
And it's so cool. Like, the world is so rich and robust, and it's so easy to, like... Because it's basically just a massive city. Like, think, if you're a Star Wars fan, it's like Coruscant. Like, it's just a planet that is a city. And so you don't really have the same problem with a lot of D&D settings where you have to think about, like, travel, and you have to connect the dots between these, like, big kingdoms. No, you can run like a relatively low scale urban game, but still with these massive like world bending stakes. I can't speak too much on it because I know at least someone from my group is going to be listening into this. So like I can't throw out the spoilers because I'm running a mystery. So I like sat down and I wrote a mystery, and I've got this like big villain that I've set up, and I'm so excited for the reveal because it's going to be nasty.
See, I'd love to run more mysteries, but one, I'm running it with these jackasses who, I mean, I don't worry about you so much, Alex, but
like we have Dallas's girlfriend sitting in the vicinity right now, and would you agree by a nod or not? Is your boyfriend a jackass? Not like bad. yeah.
But also, I do want to say as well, like I feel I'm sometimes when it comes to DMing smarter than I actually am, and I suck at mysteries.
Well, it's hard to produce a mystery that is at once fulfilling but also like makes sense. Like you want to have something that's complex enough, has enough moving parts that it is a challenge, but not so like. It's a good word for it. Wankish.
I'll take that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take wanky.
That it's like self-serving and self-aggrandizing. So the way I like to write mysteries is I'll just sit down with the truth. Like I'll sit down with the conclusion, and then I'll just do the like who, what, when, where, why, how of how the players could possibly figure this stuff out, and then I'll just like trickle clues in to get them to go and look into these things. And with Ravnica, it's really easy because there's like the 10 guilds of Ravnica, and they're basically the whole city. Like every important setting in Ravnica is tied to the guilds in some capacity.
Do you want to talk a bit about the guilds? Because I don't actually know much about the guilds.
Oh, okay. So Ravnica is a really cool block because in Magic the Gathering, there's 5 colors. Each color represents like a type of land. In the game, you use land to cast spells. That's like the whole baseline mechanic of the game. So the 5 land types are plains, which are white, swamp, which is black, islands, which are blue, mountains, which are red, and forests, which are green. And now each of those sort of loosely corresponds elementally to something. So like plains are light, swamps are darkness, islands are water, mountains are fire, which is like they could have just Volcano was right there.
Yeah.
Like they could have just
I mean, we just had Dan on before, and I feel like Dan would be annoyed by the geological impact of having that many
You should be
volcanoes.
saying
You know what, that's
igneous.
fair.
Metamorphic is the proper term.
Oh, that's good.
Now, I have a question for Will. So, like, because, like, you obviously, like Ollie, prefer to be in charge and be the DM and stuff like that. How often do you play as a player?
I've got a buddy who I've known since elementary school, who I kind of lost touch with, but then like reconnected with, who's running his own game set in like a book universe that he's done a bunch of homebrew for. I think it's. Oh, I always get this wrong. It's The Ranger's Apprentice, I believe, is the book series.
Oh, I read that when I was a kid.
Yeah. Okay. So awesome. I said it. I always want to say The Wizard's
I
Apprentice.
might have read that, but I think it was called something different in the UK.
It very well
I
might
think it's
have
called
been.
The Spook's Apprentice.
That was a different series.
That's a different.
Yeah, that's a different thing altogether.
I'll sit back.
But yeah, I'm currently playing as a character in his game, and I'm finding it really fun. It's a lot harder to find like time just because some of the people in that group work out of town. But yeah, I do enjoy being a player. I just also really like writing and telling stories. So like it's entirely self-serving being the GM.
100%. I DM because honestly, I want to world build. People playing in my world is incidental. It just gives me a justification that this is something I can spend time on, effectively.
It's almost like you get to like build the thing and see it in action.
All right, sorry. Our producer is
vibing.
Vibing and air
good.
guitaring to the Freebird solo right now instead of focusing on his
You got to drink
jaw.
to that now.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, we got a drink. Talking about music.
I just finished my drink. Oh, god damn it.
Finish his icy water. We'll get you another one. Hold on. We'll find someone else eventually.
Anywho, just to return back to the guilds so I can finish my
Yes,
my
absolutely.
explanation. So each of the colors, just because of the way the permutations works out, without repeating, there's 10 guilds. So basically all of the 10 guilds is 2 of the colors from the color palette. So like Simic is a guild that's basically focused in like magically enhancing organisms, and its colors are blue and green. And then there's Boros, which is like the army. They are just jarheads. And their colors are red and white, so like power and order.
Yeah.
And so basically the whole city, there's like a guild for every possible 2-color combination, and they all live together.
In disharmony.
And yeah, frankly, yeah. But there are moments within the like canon, within the thousands of years that the Ravnica lore spans, and frankly, I'm not that well versed in it or interested in it because it is so unnecessarily deep for a game where you go tap, I attack you for 1.
Yeah. Dude, I grew up playing 40k. I grew up in Nottingham, Warhammer,
Gotcha,
like
yeah.
the wargaming capital of the world. I like deep lore for things that don't matter is kind of my thing.
Yeah. Oh, that would be. Yeah, that's a whole rabbit hole I could go down later.
But I'll tell you what, we'll finish it with one. We'll finish up your passion project with one final question,
Cool.
and that is, we're going to go D&D 5e just to make sure everyone at the here on the podcast understands, and also for most of our readers will probably understand best.
Sure. Yeah.
Best class.
Okay.
That's a tough one, Ollie.
So, I am going to open this with the diplomatic answer, which is to say every class in D&D has really good subclass options.
Ooh.
Who that man?
Yeah, understandable. My favorite class to play consistently is cleric.
Interesting.
Are you going for a life cleric, or are you?
Oh, no. So here's the thing. The reason I like playing cleric is because they are unassuming by comparison to the other martial classes. So like your fighter, your barbarian, your what have you. But they have so many because of all of the books like Eberron that have been published since 5e was like a thing. Like the current character I am playing in my friend's game, like where I get to be the player, and also I can't say this because that's a spoiler. But the character that I am playing in my friend's game is a Warforged, so think like an automaton type thing. Path of the Grave cleric.
Oh, that's cool.
Like grave domain cleric. So what you might be thinking death domain, which is like the villain cleric that comes in the GM's guide. But grave domain is an entirely different thing, where death domain cleric is more focused around like the spiritual aspect of death. Grave domain cleric is more like, no, I'm going to bury you. And And so, like, the main ability of the Grave Domain Cleric, the Channel Divinity, is that you can make your target vulnerable to the next form of damage that you deal.
Yeah.
So I built a Cleric, but I've basically actually just built One Punch Man.
Because it's not about the dead; it's about the dying.
Oh yeah, for sure. Basically, what I did is I used this ability with the fastest scaling damage dealing spell in D&D, which is Inflict Wounds. It is a D10 of damage per level that you cast it at. So if you make your opponent vulnerable to necrotic damage, and then you use this like Inflict Wounds spell, it's still an attack roll, so it could miss. But if you hit, it's 10d10 at level 5.
Which is a bit.
Yeah.
Dallas, what's your favorite class?
The one I'm in.
Druid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
Dallas's passion. We played Baldur's Gate. Dallas played Baldur's Gate for the first time the other night.
Okay.
He's dreadful.
I can't even begin.
He is a world-class Kingdom Hearts speedrunner, I'll give him that. But
An actual like
when
champion.
but when he finally figured out how to cast Firebolt, he just killed me. Not Fireball, Firebolt.
Now, Alex, would you still go for what would you say is your favorite class at the moment?
At the moment, well, like I've recently got into the idea of multi-classing and stuff, but like I used to like Ranger a lot, and I was really cool with Ranger and stuff, but now I'm really into just Fighter.
Yeah, Fire's
I think
cool.
Fights is undersung.
I just think Fighter is very like multi-purpose. You can do a lot of things with it.
And once again, there's a lot of like really cool supplemental classes, like
Exactly.
subclasses, like Echo Knight.
Yep.
You can just make a double. Oh, excuse me, I've got the beer burps.
That's what this podcast is for.
Yeah, you can just make a double of yourself that runs around the battlefield and attacks in your place. It's sick.
So we're going to move on. Thank you so much for your wonderful passion project.
that was fantastic.
That was very good.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
Also, actually, because again, as we mentioned in our first episode, like part of this podcast is also educating Dallas a little bit. You know, like he's a lowly audio engineer. That's his only formal education and training. And so we like to teach him some things. In the last episode, he learned a lot about geology from Dan. So, Dallas, do you have any questions for our expert here on tabletop role playing and the like?
Which WWE wrestler would you think most likely be in a D&D storyline?
It's gonna sound like I'm taking the piss, but legitimately, I think that's a good question. I think the Undertaker would make a great villain.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd go for that.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, like you say, like, oh, I'm not trying to block you. That's a legitimately great question. But like,
Yeah.
let's face it, the Venn diagram of D&D fans and WWE fans
WWE
is closer to a circle than any of us are. But you know, this is so we're going to move on to our set questions.
Yeah, go for it.
This is one that I think leans well into your world building extraordinaire. So this is Who Dis. I'm going to give you the name of a historical person. This person existed. I'm not asking you to tell me who they really were. I'm not expecting you to know who this person was. The fact I do is troubling enough. But I want you to tell me who do they sound like they were. Give me a fake biography
Okay.
for Zebulon Pike.
Zebulon Pike.
That sounds like a
Can
quality
I
D&D
get a?
name.
I'm gonna do the spelling bee thing. Can you use that in a sentence?
Zebulon Pike rampaged across the plains.
Oh, okay. Cool. So I see your prompt, and I'm gonna take this in a much different direction.
Okay.
So not a lot of people know this, but in the 1930s, Home Depot.
I love where this is going already. This is going to be good.
Home Depot was like a small fledgling hardware store. And
Let him cook.
yeah, not a lot of people know this, but they only became the like conglomerate that they are today because a couple wealthy businessmen from Nowhere's Land came and invested in the business. So there's actually some Nowhere's Landian holdings in Home Depot.
Oh.
And the chief investor, and also I'll get to this in a minute, but he also had a couple other important things that he did for the business, was Zebulon Pike. One Mr. Pike is the reason that there are Home Depots everywhere.
That's fantastic.
That's not true. That's not. Is that real?
No.
You sold the shit out
You
of
sold
that.
you sold me. I am a resident bullshitter, and you sold me on that. You sold me down the river on that.
I was like, oh my god, like, did Ollie accidentally do this? Oh my
No,
god.
well, would you like to know who Zebulon Pike really was?
I mean, I've got one more detail that I'd like to just
Sure.
like drive home, and then I would, because this is very not the thing. But Zebulon Pike, partway throughout his career, realized that it was actually really difficult to get the things up on the top shelves in Home Depots.
Alice, you know a
So
thing or two about that.
Hey, honestly, man, me too. I'm not that tall.
I don't go to Home Depot.
But Zebulon Pike came up with those weird stair ladder hybrid things.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, and he initially stole the patent from Thomas Ladder, and I think that's where I'm gonna stop.
Thomas Ladder.
That is
Thomas
fantastic. That's
Ladder.
everything I wanted this section of the podcast to be. In reality, Zebulon Pike was actually a U.S. Army commander during the late, like that period between the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812.
Interesting.
And was killed in York, Ontario.
No shit.
Go Canada.
Go Canada.
Killed Zebulon Pike.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the next.
Speaking of Go Canada, this is like a plug that nobody
We're not being
needs.
paid for it, so that's okay.
Yeah, Granville Island. Their products are amazing. I'm currently drinking their raspberry ale, and it's delightful.
Magnificent. So the next one is we're going to do the Miss World segment. So if you're unfamiliar with Miss World, beauty pageants, contestants often get asked on the spot very heavy-handed questions that they're expected just to give a loquacious answer to
Sure. Yeah.
out of nowhere. And yours is, what can you do to promote civic engagement in your generation?
Holy shit. So I just want to preface this with, do you know what I go to school for?
No. That's what I go to school for is a great song by Buster, but that's all I know.
Okay.
Drink. Everybody talked about music.
God damn it.
Fuck me. So you've accidentally walked into my exact field of expertise because I am a regional and urban planning major. So can I have the exact question one more time? Because I'm going to try and give you like a well-reasoned answer to this question.
You have about a minute to answer this. What can you do to promote civic engagement in your generation?
Okay, I think the best way to address that question is to talk about what the problems with civic engagement in past generations has been. One of the problems we really face as a city is that part of the engagement piece is holding public meetings, but then no one comes to the public meetings. And there's also the
Eloquence
man.
combined with beer is a
Yeah,
wonderful
I
combination.
love having this like really hard-hitting
reminds me of, like-
conversation about civic politics while I'm like pounding beer.
This reminds me
good.
of like drunk history.
Yeah, look, we might get there. But yeah, so just to like keep this contained, the best way you can engage kids, and then I guess into our demographic of like young adults, is to either one, meet them in the education system. So this is actually something I've done. There's a young urban planners program at one of the schools in the city here. I've gone back to help teach there and to sort of like judge and help grade their final projects. That's always a really rewarding experience. But then also just like holding exercises for kids to engage with questions like, why does the city street look the way it does? Who is being served by it being this way? What can we do to make it better for the community surrounding? And we're actually starting to get to the point where we are seeing more community engagement from like university students. Because like, let's be honest, owning a car is expensive and any other mode of transportation in this city is horrible.
I mean, you can talk to anyone here at the table. I don't drive, and that is a
it's
burden both
miserable.
on myself and ultimately on them.
So it's really important to like invest in forms of transportation, especially as like the aspiration is to grow to be like where Calgary was before it hit its massive population boom. Like we're investing in things like BRT. In my opinion, it should probably be things closer to light rail. But then you also start getting into problems like what support we get from the province and from the federal government, and it's it's a fraud issue for sure.
I am so erect right now. We do have to keep this moving, but this is definitely something you and I are going to be talking about for a while in the future. This is things that you've literally heard me ramble on about before.
And this is also kind of what I study too. I'm a master's student studying civic history. So.
Okay, so what we're saying is we'll do
amazing.
we're going to do a side podcast this where we just focus on tabletop role playing and
Civic history.
we can do civic history.
we can do that. There'll be a niche audience. It will mostly be people like us, which will be great, but not. Next of all, we want to just test your general knowledge.
Sure.
And so we're going to be asking you 5 questions from a fairly recent pack of trivia question cards. And by recent, I mean they're from 1993. If you do not get it right, we are going to pass it on to Dallas. And your only goal from these 5 questions is to get more than
beat
Dallas.
All right. To do better than one Mr. Outsider at trivia that is, at this point in time, 3 decades old? Is that? Okay, cool.
So, Will, what injured Miami Dolphins quarterback missed his first game since 1983 in 1993?
I'm going to go with Zebulon Pike.
No, actually, it was, ironically,
Whoa.
Oh, yeah, Dallas, who do you think it is?
We know he's not going to get it, but we've got to give
I'm
him
gonna
a chance.
guess Bobo.
Bobo?
Bobo?
Yeah.
Well, see, it's ironic because the Dolphins actually had traded Zebulon Pike for Dan Marino.
Ah! I only
Common
know
mistake,
Dan Marino
common
from
mistake.
the Ace Ventura films. What's question 2?
Question 2 would be, what Supreme Court justice's dream for the next generation is for men to take a larger role in raising children? And the fact that this Supreme Court justice is a trivia question even back in 1993 is interesting.
Hang on, which country Supreme Court? I'm assuming U.S.
U.S.
Yeah.
It's a U.S.-based game.
I'm going to go for Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
It was Ruth Bader
Oh,
Ginsburg.
that's
I
1
thought
point.
so.
That's one for Will and nothing for Dallas.
Political history is like the one area where I might actually be okay.
Ask him some geography questions.
Well, I was
Come
about
on.
to say, this is one Will should probably get fairly easily, too. What did Italian bishops tell remarried divorcees they'd have to give up to receive church sacraments?
Money?
Well, Dallas. I'm assuming
what was
money
the
is
question?
What did divorcees, according to Italian bishops, have to give up in order to receive the sacraments?
Oh, sex.
Yeah.
No,
Holy
shit.
shit!
It's 1-1. We are tied. This is first in podcast history. Granted, it's episode 2, but still, I am waiting with bated breath for the next move.
What former heavyweight traveled to Tehran and Baghdad to try and speed up the release of Iranian and Iraqi POWs?
This is wrong, but I'm going to go with Muhammad Ali.
It's
'cause I-
Muhammad Ali.
Oh, 2-1 lead, and
Okay.
we come down to the final question.
I was going to say, like, I know the one.
Is Will going to run away with this, or is Dallas going to be able to come back with a solid tie, which
right.
in Dallas's world is a win?
For the win. What Ivy League college did Masako Owada attend before becoming Crown Princess of Japan in June? June being of June 1993.
I just
What
want to say
college?
before I answer this, I love how specific Trivial Pursuit gets.
Oh, I
it's
know,
so insane. I'm going to guess Yale.
Harvard.
Harvard.
Oh, it's a 2-2 split. We have
Do I
our
need to- do I
first.
need a
Jump to the
tiebreaker
tiebreaker.
question?
We'll do a
dude.
tiebreaker. Yeah, I don't like baseball. I don't like ending.
Are you smarter
ending
than
on a tie.
Dallas Outsider?
What animated character stood next to Henry Mancini at a Hollywood Bowl concert honoring the character's 30th birthday?
I know this one. I actually do know this one, but I'm not answering
so I
this.
have to guess what character
What
was
animated
invented
character?
in
It's Mancini, by
Not
the way.
invented. Yeah, I guess that 1963.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
1963.
Good math.
So, who the hell was a guy in 1963? I'm gonna go with Popeye.
Dallas?
Oh, that's Popeye's too early.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. He's like the 30s.
I'm gonna say like Ronald McDonald.
It's the Pig
Dum-dum.
Panther.
That's about as much
Bummer.
we can get away with before I think we get hit by a
Okay.
copyright strike.
I just
Dallas,
wanna-
edit that out.
Henry Mancini, for some reason, is one that I know. I guess we end on a tie, and that was underwhelming. Well done,
Can't
well
you
done
be
all.
a-
Handshake,
Can't
I,
it
handshake.
be like
I
a
live to
tiebreaker
be
question?
underwhelming.
That was the tiebreaker question, and you got it wrong.
Oh.
So we
okay.
stay on the tie.
Live with your failures.
The tie was not broken. Okay, we're going to move on to our set questions. These are questions that we're going to ask every person that comes on this podcast.
Sure.
This just allows us to get a good psychological profile for you that our readers can understand. The first one is, what is your favorite Tom Hanks movie?
Oh, geez. Starting at like 100. I thought we were going to like ease into the difficult questions.
I want people to know you. I don't want people to be polite to you.
What a thing to say.
The problem is there's like definitely wrong answers.
I don't want diplomacy. I want your truth.
Okay. I would say Sully. Do you know that
I
film?
do. Okay.
A more recent pick.
Yeah.
I do want to hear justification
I
if you are willing to give it.
think Tom Hanks is a perfectly fine, like he was fine as a young actor. He had this kind of like weird manic energy he could dip into for some films that I thought he was like really serve the movies that he was in. Obviously there's like Castaway, but then there's like movies like Big where he gets transplanted into a kid's body, or other way around, sorry. But yeah, I think I would go Sully just because there's something about like older, sadder Tom Hanks that is like captivating.
I'd agree.
And obviously, like Forrest Gump is a really good movie, but everyone picks Forrest Gump.
Dan
and I
did
am
pick so far 100%
pretentious.
of our
100% of anything else guests have picked Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
do you want to give us what's the best scene from Sully?
Probably-
With a Tom Hanks impression, if you can do one.
Oh, I can't. I honestly like. I'm not even sure if the scene has lines, but just the opening of the movie, like it's so tense
The
and
actual
so
bird strike is
captivating.
When
Yeah.
it's the scene where
no.
it's the word where the
Yeah.
birds hit the plane and he goes, "Ow."
Which like
no.
isn't words really. It's just like oh.
The next one, we're gonna stay high level, high strung. What cereal leaves the best milk?
Oh, that one. Okay, so we're like stepping down a hair.
Oh, this is down. This is
yeah,
down.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, easy.
Okay, Dallas, as our resident foodie,
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is great.
What did
Oh, yeah,
Dan
it's tier.
say?
Dan gave brown sugar mini wheats.
Yeah.
I honestly, yeah, that's a respectable
So
choice.
far, I don't disagree with anything.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily going to be my picks, but I appreciate what
He
you guys are
seems
throwing
to be a
down.
normal person.
Okay, here's like a maybe aggro take. If you say Fruit Loops, you're lame.
Okay. Oh, okay.
We will keep that in mind.
We're going to keep that in mind. That's the William Wallace fight answer. When you shower, do you face or turn away from the water?
Like for the whole shower?
I'd say, like, are you a majority face away, face towards?
I'm a switch.
Your switch.
Yeah.
Okay, your verse.
A
Good to know.
rotator.
But which way do you rotate?
Clockwise. I'm not a
Oh, so
heathen.
do you go all the way around rather than go like on
Well-
one, or do you go on one side? Like, do you rotate one way and then rotate back the same way?
I've never thought about this that
Is
deeply.
it a spit roast or is it like those hot dog things at movie theaters?
I think it's like the hot dog things at movie theaters.
Okay.
Totally,
Or is it a
yeah.
little bit one way, a little bit the other?
yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that. This Fatboy Slim sort of
Yeah.
feeling. Okay. Keeping with the cleanliness routine, do you wash the body or the hair first? Soap or shampoo first?
Oh,
As a long-haired gentleman,
Yeah, shampoo first.
for anyone who can't see Will, which is everyone in front of us right now, who's not in front of us, Will
He
has
has
very
very
long,
long hair.
beautiful hair.
Yeah.
Do you shampoo the beard as well?
Yep.
Yeah.
Honestly,
As often as the hair, or is it like just occasionally?
oh man, beer. Huh. Yeah, I shampoo the beard about as often as the hair, but I also have like an oil that I put into
Yeah.
it.
Do you rinse out the hair before you start the body wash then, or is it like put the shampoo and conditioner in and then zhuzh the body?
I'll leave. So I do like a 2-tiered approach. I like leave the shampoo in my
Okay.
hair while I'm like doing up my beard.
Okay.
And then I'll rinse them both at the same time, just because you don't want like the skin around your chin's more sensitive than the skin on top of your
Okay,
head.
that's fair enough.
So you don't want the shampoo to stay there as long.
For anyone who's bearded, that's some good advice. Do keep that down.
Yeah.
Next, we are moving away, unfortunately, from the bathroom. What object do you own the most of that you aren't deliberately collecting?
Shit. Okay. Oh, that's such an interesting question.
I would say, whilst your parents are buying them for you as gifts, I would say you're still
I know.
you're
I
still
am definitely
collecting.
deliberately collecting books. My initial reaction, like when you before you put the caveat on that, my answer was going to be dice, because I just have so many. But I think the actual answer to that question, like with the caveat included, would probably be pants.
What are we talking? Like just like jeans specifically,
Well, I
or like
just
all
have-
kinds?
Like I have a wardrobe full of so many different kinds of like professional grade pants in different styles, just so that when I like dress up and go, because I'm already kind of starting on the back foot with looking professional in the sense that I have very long hair and like a Wolfman Jack beard.
Yeah.
So
You wear it very well, babe.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I have to, when I'm like dressed professionally, I have to like be dressed professionally.
It's like when you see those guys who are like heavily tattooed. They know they've got to like push against this. They've got to do the full finery.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd say of all the clothing I own, trousers in the UK we call them trousers, but pants is probably the thing I own the fewest of. I think I have about
Really?
4 pairs.
Okay.
No, 4. No, I've got more. I bought some more recently. I'm probably up to about 5 pairs. That's my formals, my regulars. Not including my shorts. If I include shorts, maybe up to 6 or 7. Anyway,
I have like 4 different pairs of formal pants, and I have like not tried to accumulate them.
Honestly,
and then I've got the like chinos and the jeans. Like I've got, of course, normal jeans, but I've got like black jeans and beige jeans. Have you ever seen beige denim?
no, but I'm kind of into
No.
it
It's
now.
insane. I don't know how but I have it.
Fuck
And I haven't
yeah.
tried to have it.
The next one is one of my personal favorites. Is what is your guilty pleasure fast food? It doesn't have to necessarily be fast food, but what's one thing that you eat more regularly than you're willing to admit to the general population, though you are going to admit on permanent media
Sure,
now,
yeah.
that you know isn't good? Like, it's gross. It's not.
Oh yeah. I feel like the go-to answer for this is probably something related to McDonald's, because everyone likes to dog on McDonald's. But I would say my like guilty pleasure fast food is anything from Arby's.
100%.
Interesting, yeah.
I do like that. Like, people will like shit on McDonald's, but they will
Yeah.
still say like. But people will still admit that it's good for certain things.
Yeah.
Apart from the
Who
mozzarella
wants
sticks.
to
Yeah.
admit they go
No,
to
yeah,
Arby's.
no one wants to admit they go to Arby's. And even with the mozzarella sticks, they're like, people will say like, Arby's got great mozzarella sticks, but I just go for that. I'm not going for the meats. I'm not doing that. It's a whole very defensive thing.
Yeah. And I'm gonna come out and say it. Roast beef and cheddar with a little bit of barbecue sauce, because of course they call it that. It fucks.
It fucks.
It fucks.
Hang on, Dallas.
What's your thoughts on the chicken sandwiches from Arby's? Because that's the one I get.
So I only ever had the like buffalo chicken sliders, just because they
Oh,
were
yeah.
cheap and like it was close to the school where I went to high school.
Yeah.
Those are great. Like their Arby's chicken tenders are good for absolutely no reason, as far as I can tell. Like they're better than they have any right to be. But yeah, like I've never tried like the shaved chicken or shaved turkey sandwiches. I will say though that my dad has got the turkey club and he got food poisoning.
That sounds like I just assume you do. At this point, I just assume you. From what I've heard, I've never actually had Arby's personally. Maybe we should do a like a group trip.
Do
to
an
Arby's.
Arby's run.
There's only one in the city now. They closed the one that was
There's
near
one
me.
The one
Circle
they
still.
closed the one by my old high school.
Yeah, which is a shame. That one was great to see no one go into.
Oh, that's so real.
The one on
But like,
Circle's
I'm not
better.
saying like you get food poisoning every time you go to Arby's, but I feel like everyone who goes to Arby's more than once has had food poisoning from Arby's.
The opinions of Olli Eldrick do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Anything Else podcast or Somewhere Else Pub and Grill.
I would like to come to Arby's defense here and say I have never personally had food poisoning from Arby's.
Same.
But I have known a non-zero amount of people who have been with me and got food poisoning.
The last question I have for you in this psychological profile round is ghosts ?
Can't live with them. Can't live without them.
I'll allow it. I'll take that one.
And then finally, our last question that we ask all of our viewers. We call this part of the questions for the viewer the recommendation corner. So you look like a man who has a shower curtain. Did you know that it is recommended that you change your shower curtain every 6 months? How often do you change your shower curtain?
So let's start with the fact that you've caught me completely unaware that that's how often you should be changing your shower curtain.
That's the idea.
And I'm going to go home and change my shower curtain.
The fact is, they sell so many novelty shower curtains with whimsy. I'm supposed to like ditched that. I spent good money on that one.
Oh yeah.
I didn't. I've got like the one that my apartment came with, but
It might be nice actually, because my current shower curtain is just entirely gray. Like it just goes with the color palette of the
was it grey
bathroom.
when it started?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Like it might be a slightly dingier shade of gray. I couldn't tell you. I'm like a boiled frog in that regard, but yeah, I should probably change it. And like it might be good to like change it to something whimsical.
Now, well, over this podcast, you have informed us about many things. You've given us your opinions on a lot of things. You've given us a wonderful little seminar on Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games in general. But now we want to hear, we want to tell you some stuff and see what you think about them.
Sure,
So we're
absolutely.
going to give you some news from around the world. We're going to start with our Florida Man segment, though our Florida Man segment this time, I believe, comes from Texas.
Yes, this week's Florida Man actually comes from Leander, Texas. Will, what do you think about the fact that an emu found in Leander roaming neighborhoods was reunited with its owner recently?
I think that's like if I was running a news site, I would tag that as heartwarming. And then I'd go
agree.
home at night and never think about it again.
And this is the emu. Describe it for our listeners.
Oh, hold on. Wait a minute. It looks like an irate ostrich. Like, you know how ostrich are kind of like weirdly bald?
Yeah.
It's like an ostrich that doesn't need Rogaine. Yeah.
Next, we're gonna give you some local
Also,
news.
the emu's name was Sparkles, just for everyone.
Fantastic.
Never mind. I take back my initial assessment. I feel so happy for Sparkles that Sparkles is home.
But we are now going to give you some local news. It's not local news from here in Saskatoon. It's local news from wherever we grew up.
Okay.
Alex, what's coming out of West Manitoba?
Well, I've got a news story headline here from my old haunt of Brandon, Manitoba, where I lived for many a year.
Oh, my stepmother lived there for many years.
Fantastic. I used to be the ice maker at the Brandon Curling Club, just as an aside.
Oh,
Anyways,
cool.
what do you think about just this Brandon headline? Assault, phony money, drug bust.
Tuesday.
You're not far off.
Hey.
Hey, from Nottingham, back in England,
Sure.
we have experts issue stark warning over homemade sunscreen shown in viral TikTok video. One doctor from Nottingham said it was a significant worry.
Like, I feel like I want to know the ingredients.
Would you like the recipe?
Please. Yeah, let's get some details.
In contrast to commercially available this is from the Nottingham Evening Post.
Okay.
Or as we call it back home, this is true. This is the EPO. When kids, the newspaper holders call it out, they go EPO, and that was all you get. In contrast to commercially available SPF products, she opted to create her own blend using ingredients like coconut oil, beeswax, shea butter, and cocoa butter. Jojoba oil was then incorporated into the mixture, which was heated over a pot of boiling water on the stove, a bain-marie, if you will, a double boiler. I still can't spell bain-marie. After adding zinc oxide, she whisked the concoction for about a minute. That's in quotes, for about a minute. The mixture was subsequently chilled to, and again, in quotes, solidify. But experts have condemned the practice as hazardous and are cautioning people against emulating it.
So what is the harmful ingredient?
I don't
in
know,
that
but what I wanted
concoction?
to know from you, Will, is do you trust the science?
Oh, fuck no. Are you kidding me? Oh, sorry, wait. I feel like I answered that question incorrectly.
Do you trust the scientists?
Yeah, I trust the scientists. I thought you meant like the science behind mixing those ingredients.
No,
And my
I'm
answer to that is no. As a general rule, if something looks more like a list of ingredients that would be on a Bath and Body Works product and it was made at home, do not trust that shit because someone's literally just like incorporating like fucking palm olive and vegetable oil.
We gotta cook, Jesse.
Yeah, literally.
And Dallas-
It's the same mentality, and I will die on that hill.
And Dallas, what do we have from your neck of the woods?
And so in Vancouver, for news, did you know that Vancouver, the Metro Vancouver, is about to hit 4 million people by the mid 2040s, allegedly.
What's my opinion
in about
on there
20
being
years, there'll be
that
4 million
many
people
in Vancouver?
In 20
Yeah.
years.
What's
in
the
Metro-
current population of Vancouver?
That's a good question.
I think it's about 1.72 mil. I think at the
Oh,
moment.
so it's gonna like kaboom. Like in 4 years, we're gonna get like a Vancouver and a half.
Metro Vancouver is only, as of 2017, it was 675,000.
So it's expected to be almost a little bit more than 4 times that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
5 times
yeah.
that.
By 2040.
I think that the city planning team in Vancouver better get the fuck on that.
And finally, we're gonna just wrap up here. Is there anything else you'd like to say to us, Will?
I did kind of a shitty job plugging earlier, so I am gonna plug.
This is your redemption plug round.
Yeah, and like
Get ready to drink, everyone.
the redemption plug. I think I'm going to do where I'm gonna throw it out to some people in the community who I've like done work with, or I'm expected to do work with, some friends. So Aurora Bella, who you may or may not
I
know.
do, yeah, I know Aurora very well.
The lead singer for the band Little Darkness. Little Darkness is putting out an EP at some point in the indeterminate future. Well, it's not that indeterminate.
There's a vague idea.
In September, there will be an EP release show, and we will be opening for Little Darkness, which
amazing.
is a tremendous honor. It'll be at Amigos, so if you want to stay up way later, then
You had planned to.
yeah, come and see that. Otherwise, we just did like a bunch of work with. I'm just gonna use this as an opportunity to shout out a good friend of mine, Jared Siebert. Helped us tremendously with our EP. Like, it literally wouldn't have been possible for it to take the shape that it did without him. He produced, he mixed, he helped us do a bunch of the recording stuff. So love to Jared Siebert. And I think, what was the initial question for the segment?
Shout out, wrap up, just
Yeah, okay.
last words.
So I think to wrap up, I'm going to say I think it's really important to wash behind the ears when you're showering, because if you don't, it gets really oily and gross back there. And the other thing I'll say is, in times of trouble, I usually like to ask myself, what would Zebulon Pike do? And I think that's powerful.
Thank you very much, Will. This has been episode 2 of the Anything Else at Somewhere Else podcast. Check us out in the future. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having
Thank
me,
you,
gents.
and thank you so much, not only to Will, but for Somewhere Else Pub for letting us host this podcast.
And thank
here.
you to our fake sponsors. Enjoy.